Hello, everyone. This is Ed K. Smith, and welcome to the Asset Show. Very fortunate today to have on the show a special guest, Adam Saville-Brown, who is the General Manager of Koinly Asia Pacific. Welcome, Adam. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show today. Super excited to be here. We've had a few chats offline, and it's honestly a pleasure to be invited on today.
The pleasure is all ours. Thanks for coming on. Now, for those who don't know, Coinly is a crypto tax calculator slash reporting tool, software or software as a service that Adam works for. And one of the reasons we wanted to have Adam on today was to discuss crypto taxes, and tools that you can use to calculate what those taxes are. Now, a disclaimer before we go any further, this is not financial advice. This is not tax advice. Do your own research, speak to your accounting professional, speak to your financial advisors. This is for educational purposes only. So do not take anything that Adam or I say as advice, because it is not. I think that's enough. We'll probably say that several times during this podcast, Adam, but that's all good.
Our head of tax is literally thinking of getting a t-shirt that on the back says, "What I say does not constitute legal financial advice."
Yes, exactly. And look, we say this on all of our podcasts is, it's not financial advice, all that sort of stuff. You have to. So another disclaimer is that I am actually a customer of Coinly. I love the product, and I'd be stuffed if I didn't have it, because crypto tax calculations are very, very complicated without the correct tools to use. So, and I'm also an affiliate, and I may mention an affiliate link that I have to Coinly in this conversation, which I do make money, but you don't pay any more for. So that's another disclaimer, full of disclaimers. All that being said,
so many disclaimers. Welcome to working in tax and crypto.
Yeah, far out. What do you do? But anyway, so mate, let's do a bit of a backstory on how you ended up, because I know you've been doing some stuff in the crypto space and NFTs and various things well before you started your role at Coinly in Australia. So let's do a bit of how did you lead up to this point over the last couple of years? What have you been doing that led you to this point, Adam?
Sure. So actually, even if we go even further back, I grew up in like third world country islands. So I was born in England, but raised in like Mauritius, Trinidad, and St. Vincent. So countries where like there was a lot of poverty. And a lot of like divide between those that had and those that didn't have. And I kind of never really understood that as a kid, kind of growing up, and ended up going to boarding school, university, and graduating university. And I was on my way back from visiting a friend in Miami, and I managed to blag my way to a first class seat from the airline. And on the seat, they had a Business Insider magazine. And on the front of it, it had Kevin Rudd from Dig. Kevin Rose from Dig.
Kevin Rose, yeah.
And I was reading the story about how this guy created a startup, made a bunch of money, and I was like, this sounds really cool. I want to learn more about startups. So when I went to university, startups were what I wanted to do. So I studied business and management. And on the day I left, my parents were like, you should be an accountant or a management consultant. I was like, I want to be in startups. And I ended up applying for an unpaid internship role with this company in London. And my job was literally to build their IKEA desks. And that company turned out to be Groupon in the UK. And I went from building the desks, the phone rang, I picked up the phone. It was someone asking for their money. And I went to finance to ask them, when are we going to pay them? And I became the account manager. Now, within 18 months, I was running a account management team of like 50 people. I then relocated to Australia because I understood the Groupon model, and I was working with the CEO to build their team here. And I was the sales director within like another 6 months, and then did that for about 18 months. So I'm like 22. running a $2 or $3 million a week business.
Wow.
Having like 15 employees, and I even had to lie to them about my age, telling them that I was like 28, because all these like 40-year-old employees were like, who is this 22-year-old guy telling us what we should be doing?
That's hilarious.
But it was just the fact that, right place, right time, and the student mentality to just learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
I don't remember having much of a personal life. The only thing I actually paid for was a unlimited cinema pass for the cinema next to my house. And I would literally go there with my doona at the end of the day and just like sit in the cinema and just watch a movie just to relax. And there was a point where we had like sleeping bags in the office. It was such a wild startup experience, but it gave me the insight of what it took to grow a company to that level. Yeah. And we call it wearing like the company brand, the company t-shirt, because everyone there loved Groupon. We loved working and doing what we were doing. So I did that, and from there I then was able to go join a company called Resdy, which only had 3 people. It was an online tour operating software. We grew that to 40 people, opened another office in San Francisco, opened an office here. So it was myself and the founders. And I was running it both there and here. And I went to San Francisco, and we ended up meeting a bunch of the guys, from like Groupon, Salesforce, Facebook. Zynga was a big one at the time. And I kind of got into that San Francisco crowd and had a startup with them, in which we were buying iPhones from all the, all the Uber drivers where they drive around with phones.
Yeah.
They used to get them for free from the company. And then one day they record them. I remember we got an email and it was like, who wants to buy these phones from us? Because we have to get rid of them. And they were like $60 each. And we ended up buying all of them for $80. And there was like 10,000 of them. And we called those We Buy Any Phone companies and managed to sell a third of them for $300 each, which allowed us to buy the rest and put them on Amazon.
Wow.
And my friend and I, at 3 months, managed to make enough to kind of just spend the next year or so traveling. And
it's hilarious.
And it gave me enough space to kind of breathe and think about, what do I want to do?
Yes.
And
yes.
I joined a company here called Zendesk doing rostering. They're like a deputy competitor, now pivoted to Guardhouse. And from then, I got a call from MindBody, the yoga software company.
Yep.
So a fun story about them was I actually, a few years before, when I was working out what to do post the phone deal, I turned up at their office with cupcakes. And I sat in their office and I was waiting for like about half a day, and someone came out and said, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I really want to work for you guys. Can I have an interview?"
That's fantastic.
And they were like, "No, go away." And I just kept turning up with different cupcakes and everything till eventually they gave me an interview. And the story for that is that I had these shoes that were like black with skulls on them. And I kept wearing them to it. And then about 3 years later, I got a phone call from MindBody to be like, "Are you still interested? Would you like to spin up our Australian office?" And because they remembered it from that time, and I spun up the Australian office here, and we went from, again, like 2 or 3 people to 45 people in the office, customer service, payroll, sales. And I was giving a speech in the office in San Luis Obispo down in the US around our Australian office. And a guy came up to me afterwards and he was like, "Man, those shoes with the skulls on, I've only ever seen them once before." And it was from this random guy that turned up in our office 3 years ago trying to get an interview with us. And I was like, That's me. That was me. And he was like, "You are a very persistent gentleman."
So let me ask you a question, because as soon as like you're describing these shoes, and I'm instantly going to Better Call Saul and the previous show, Breaking Bad, and there's two guys, the Salamancas, in there. Have you watched the show?
I have watched the show.
Yeah, well, they've got they've got skulls on the tips of their shoes. They're really pointy shoes with metal skulls on the ends. I'm just wondering whether they like those ones, or was it just a picture of a skull?
They were more subtle. They're like they were suede black with a shiny black skull, but it was patterned all over, kind of like
I see.
So it was like a subtle, like a nod to it.
Okay, cool.
But people remembered them, and it was so funny that 3 years later, someone had remembered the skull shoes, and it really made me smile, because they were like, man, like, you were the guy that was asking us for a job 3 years ago, and now you're the guy on stage telling us how to grow a company.
That's fantastic. And well, there's several good lessons in there. Persistence, chutzpah, just having the guts and persistence to turn up and keep doing something, and being memorable, standing out from all the other people who just turn up. Here's my resume, can I have a job? And then never turning up again. It's that consistency. That's great. My wife's a career consultant, career coach, so she loves stories like this. So she'll enjoy that one.
I did it to Facebook as well, but I ended up going with my own body. Facebook weren't as receptive to a random person sitting outside their office for 3 days.
Mate, that's fantastic. And of course, all of that led you into getting this position into Coinley.
Yeah, it was at Mind Body, and I got a call from some of the guys that worked at Atlassian, who one of the guy who wrote Jira, Anton Mascavoy, had gone on to help build artificial intelligence for machine learning, where we took kind of all the data points in buildings, take it to the cloud, and we're like, okay, how many people are in the shopping center? How much are they spending? How many cars are there? What's the temperature? And you run machine learning algorithms to understand the most effective way for that building to operate.
Yep.
And you can push that back and live change the building. So it's like live control for the building. And no one had ever like sold stuff like that before. So they called me to say, could you help us with getting this into like Mervac, Lendlease, Westfield? And I thought that was a really interesting challenge. So I went and did that for a few years, and during the pandemic decided to take a break just to like work for the true fact, I was 129 kilos. I lost 50 kilos in 6 months during the pandemic.
Whoa.
Just by deciding to focus on mental health. That's
amazing. That's a lot of weight. I've lost 12 and I thought that was a lot.
I'll send you a photo that you can put into the into the video if you wanted.
That's astounding. That's a lot. Well done. There's quite a few stories like that during the pandemic. I think there's probably a lot of stories of people that have put on too much weight during the pandemic because they're just at home eating and not exercising as well. So, but that's fantastic.
I just realized that what I was doing wasn't making me happy.
Yeah. And
I asked myself what made me happy. So I became a painter, and I got commissioned by the New South Wales Police Force to paint their new head office down in Goulburn with some Indigenous artists and LGBTQ artists. And then awesome. I thought, hold on, like I know so much about technology, maybe I can leverage this. And at the same time, I've been accumulating a little bit of Bitcoin since 2011. I bought my first one at $4.
Nice.
And I thought, how can I leverage this? And I actually started building a company that verifies the sale of offline assets through NFT.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you want to go buy a Banksy artwork and you want to spend $100,000 on it. Well, we can sell it to you through ETH as well. So if ETH goes up or Banksy goes up, then you're like, which one is it? This one completely rocketing to the moon.
Yeah. To the moon. To the moon.
So I started doing that. We raised some money, and that was going well. But I found myself just being an entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, running this company online. And I saw a video of someone who was working for a company who used to work for me, and he posted this video of them playing ping pong, having whiteboarding sessions. And I was like, man, like, do I just want to sit on the couch for the rest of my 30s and accumulate cash, or do I actually want to go and teach people the stuff I've learned, like help them develop and do something cool?
Yeah.
So I reached out to a few friends, and I got a bunch of offers for role, and I was like, these aren't for me. And then Coinley came across, and I started talking to Coinley, and it was like this online company that no one knew how big it was. It was super useful, and it was quiet. And I got to kind of see behind the Wizard of Oz curtain. And find this wealth of people all across the world. We're talking people in Ukraine, Russia, Egypt, the US, like everywhere, coming together online to build this product.
Right.
And I saw like how passionate they were about it. And I was like, no one knows about this company. And in the way that they should, they see it as a useful product that they want to use because it helps them with tax. But what I saw was people that literally were like wearing the t-shirts. They were pumped to be working there. They wanted to help people. There's forums for how many of our customers send us like such nice comments about what it is that we do. Yes. And like how helpful it's been. And I saw that and I said to the CEO, like, how do I get on this rocket ship? And one of the key things that started coming up was that, you know, Koinly is overseas, they're remote, they're this and that, and like that they're not there. And after a conversation with Robin, our CEO, and a few others, we were like, it's time that we start like spinning up some offices and letting people know that we're here, like give us a call.
Exactly.
And that's allowed us to now, like, you know, we've gone from literally my couch in Bondi with my computer resting on a drum doing interviews to a 30-person office on George Street, which we're outgrowing now. And that's literally happened in about the last 12 weeks.
Amazing. Yeah. And look, it's one of those things that because I've been using Koinly now would be over a year. And it's always good to know when an Australian presence starts up for something like this, when you know you can get local support and there's local understanding for our tax laws and various things, and you know you can do it in Australian dollars and things like that. So so I would say your story to this point is fascinating, and I'm sure there's many more bits and pieces we can go into, and we'll have to have you back on another podcast to talk about NFTs and augmented reality and things like that, because I know that's where another side of your passion lies. But keeping it on the Koinly focus for this episode, who would you say is your ideal customer? Who is it that maybe doesn't think they need you, but they most definitely do need to use something like Koinly?
For sure. I mean, we've had a few conversations like this recently because we were at the Accountancy Expo for Business last week.
Yep.
And our customer, we actually span like quite a large range. So we get a large number of B2C signups a day. I mean, we're talking in the 4 figures around the world.
Yep.
Of just everyday users like you and I that come in and you plug in your wallets and you can understand, we can quickly understand what your sale activity is, your purchase activity, and work out whether it's capital gains, whether it's income tax because you're staking, and be able to have that. So that would be like your everyday user.
Mm-hmm.
And where we've now seen something to be really interesting and pivot is, imagine that you get 2,000 to 3,000 signups of people that want to use Koinly to do their daily tax.
Yeah.
And this is in like a small period of time. Now they suddenly take that report and go hand that to our accountants. And their accountants are like, what is Koinly? So now
what is crypto?
Yeah, what is crypto? Like most accountants won't even touch it, right?
No, it's pretty scary at the moment. But anyway.
Most accountants won't even touch it, and now we're seeing this point where we have like the pivot moving from, not only are we getting a large volume of our B2C customers, but accountants started calling us to be like, hey, like, do you have a platform to help us? So we developed a chartered accountant platform in which they can invite their users and benefit from that economies of scale.
Fantastic.
So we have both the average user, yourself and I, trading crypto, hoping to go to the moon. making a bit of money on that, and we need to pay our tax on that. But we also have accountants now buying anywhere from 10 to 2,000 licenses at a time to disseminate to their customers, to say, go plug in your wallets. That'll come to us and that'll allow us to do those calculations to put into your tax report.
Okay.
And then from that, we've also now started to do co-branding solutions with some of the big exchanges, as well as financial firms. There's a company in Canada called Wealth Simple, and they're kind of your equivalent of your e-tax here.
Okay.
And they used to have a button that says, like, type in here how much crypto profit you have. Well, now you can actually click that button and within their software, plug in your Coinly account and make sure that you're paying the right tax through to that. So it's all super simple, takes less than 30 seconds. And this isn't a pitch for it. It's saying it's great that we're seeing these accountants and these accountancy firms embracing the need for crypto tax.
Yeah.
Because if you think 1 in 4 people in Australia has some sort of digital asset, 100% of people in Australia need to pay tax.
Absolutely. And it scares me, the amount of conversations I have with people who invest in crypto, invest in NFTs, who think somehow they can avoid paying tax. And they often, you've probably heard this, oh, I've lost my ledger over the boat on the, on the fishing trip or some bullshit like that, thinking that the tax department can't track it. And okay, they may be able to get away with some things, but because it's all on the blockchain, it's all traceable and trackable. It's actually worse than if you're dealing with cash or bank accounts, probably, in terms of trying to hide. And people think if they're using MetaMask, it's going to help them, but no, it's not. And you've probably heard these stories a million times.
So I'll give a couple of interesting ones. So the first one is that the government takes this stuff so seriously that they're putting together a task force to help understand and regulate the new rules, which is great because, that gives us an opportunity to understand those and have a content-driven strategy to be able to push that out to our users. But there's also a company which is a digital finance cooperative research center.
Okay.
So my friend Sean Macaulay and his team are kind of running that together, but where the government is funding a research center to understand digital finance and how that implies. But if people think that they can hide their crypto or their assets, like, it only takes one transaction that's linked to your name to plug it in, and everything is digitized. The whole idea of decentralized currency is transparency across the board. Yeah. So if you can't join a transparent currency and then think you can hide away from it, and bear in mind, once again, this doesn't constitute financial advice. I gotta say that there.
Yep.
But I'll give an interesting example. Last night I was working in our office. I'm a late night bee. I was getting an Uber home at like 9, 10, whatever it was. And the Uber driver was like, "Are those cryptocurrency tattoos on your arm?" And,
Love it.
And I laughed, and they were like, "What should I invest in?" And I was like, "To be honest, if I could give you enough information in the next 10 minutes that you drive me home to make you a millionaire, I'd probably have my own driver sitting outside." And I was like, "But on the other side of it, like, tell me why you're interested." And he said he doesn't understand much about it, but his son had been trading.
Yeah.
And he said his son thought that, like, his son made a lot of money, like 6 figures, and he was only 16.
Yep.
And he said to me, "Oh, I don't have to pay tax. I'm not 18.
Oh, good.
And I was like, "Look, your son's gonna need to plug into a few things." And luckily, like, as the general manager here for Coinly in Australia, I have some discount codes that I can use occasionally to give to people. And I had a handful left from an event, which was 100% off your cryptocurrency report. And I was like, "Look, who's he trading with?" He's like, "Well, he's got like 10 friends and they're all trading together. They got NFT, they got Discord." And I was like, I was like, give me your phone number. And I text him a bunch of 100% off discount codes for Coinley.
Yep.
And I was like, tell them to plug their wallets in and see what the answer is. Because like there are so many people out there that think, oh, it doesn't apply to me. It doesn't apply to me. Tax applies to everyone.
Death and taxes, the only two guaranteed things in life, mate. Death and friggin' taxes. And the taxes come before and after the death.
Yeah.
So it's
you want to inherit money? Tax.
You're kidding yourself if you think you're gonna obviously anyone who's in business is going to try and reduce their what tax they have to pay legitimately, using things that they're allowed to do. But again, I think the conversation of crypto and tax and accounting is there's so few accountants at the moment that seem to be up on this. And that's what scares me more. I think the people who are really like know their stuff in this space are just so busy, particularly now being sort of tax return time in Australia. They can't keep up with it. So I think what Coinley's doing, more education is required, which is one of the reasons we wanted to have this conversation on assets. Sure.
And so we've I don't want to say I believe that we've made like a super smart choice, but we've actually made a choice in the right direction, in which we've actually started hiring heads of tax and in-house tax accountants for Australia. So we have people joining that have 10, 15 years in tax experience working with the ATO. The ATO is not as scary as everyone thinks. They're actually super nice. We're able to have those open conversations to understand the rulings in the task that allow us to build a product that can be more aligned with what they're looking for.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll have our head of tax here. We'll have other people here where we can use, where it's like you have a question, we may be able to help you in terms of not providing tax advice, but putting you in the right direction of who you should be speaking to. And if I can add to that a little bit further, I don't know if you remember, Xero, the accounting software?
I use it, yes.
Awesome, I use it too, it's great. When Xero started, not many people know this, it was a business to consumer product.
Yeah.
It was $5 a month to do your own personal accounting.
I remember it.
And
when it came out. Yeah.
And then slowly they started giving access to their accountants. Their accountants are like, why aren't we using this?
Yeah.
And it became an accountant software. And a few years later, they cut off the B2C level because they realized it was easier to work with the accountants.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that we're going to do that, but I'm saying where if you imagine that 95% of our revenue would come from people like you and I trading crypto on a daily basis, we're now seeing that shift massively to accountants calling us up every day. And they're like, we want to buy 200 licenses. We want to buy 300 licenses. Can we have training? Can we talk to your head of tax in it? Like this is ideal of what's happening this day and age, with people shifting more to the accountants getting more involved in this.
Yeah, as it should be and has to be. Otherwise, people are just trying to make things up themselves, and that's where they're going to get in trouble if they don't get the correct advice from someone who is licensed and regulated to give that advice, not their neighbor or their Uber driver.
Exactly. Like, I mean, whenever an Uber driver says to me, can you give me some advice? My normal advice is you should probably just invest in Tesla. And I was like, because Elon Musk knows a lot more than we do.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is, that the minute you've given said advice to the Uber driver, the next person that gets in the cab is probably passing that on. The old Chinese whispers starts to happen. And next thing you know, people are doing all sorts of weird things.
Yeah. I thought I'd tell you a funny story, actually. The other day I was at breakfast and I was wearing my Coinley t-shirt and someone came and sat, like it was 7 a.m. I was in the Strand on George Street. I was having breakfast and someone came and sat down in front of me. And they were like, look, I know this is awkward, but now, while I've got you, can I talk to you about my crypto tax? And I was like, I sell software. I'm not here to give you any advice. Like that's like asking Zero to give you advice on how to save money on your taxes. It's like, that's not what we do. We provide a software to give you the information so that you can facilitate that conversation with the powers that be.
Yeah, I've had that happen myself, running a marketing agency for 20 years. A top that I often got has my online impact brand on one side and Google on the other, because we're partners with Google. And a lot of people, I mean, I did it, obviously, I wore it to be something to attract conversation and business. But often one of the first things people would say, do you work for Google? So no, this is my company over here, Online Impact. We work with Google. And then the second one thing is, how do I get more traffic? It's like, okay, let's start the conversation. But I wasn't technically giving advice in terms of legalities or taxation or accounting or anything. So yours is a different scenario that can get you in hot water. But I think it's fascinating. I think it's good that people who are just out at a cafe even know what Coinly is. I mean, that's a reassuring thing.
That was wild to me. I was like, oh, yeah. So great. I mean, to tell you another side, someone gave us back our Reddit subreddit.
Okay.
The Coinly one, because it wasn't started by us. It was started by our community of users that wanted to share information and help each other.
Yes.
Because, I mean, this happened when we were at Groupon. You went through rapid growth and customer service was a little bit slow, and we experienced like rapid growth here, and they were like, we can help each other. Like, that's all good.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So I've seen, I'm a daily reader of the Australian Financial Review, and I saw today, and by the way, this recording is being recorded on the 4th of May. So may the 4th be with you for all those Star Wars lovers.
May the 4th be with you too.
So that's when we're recording it. But on today's date, the 4th of May, in the Australian Financial Review, on page 7, I'm looking at it now on my screen, there's a full page ad. And there's been a few of these I've noticed recently of Coinly. Crypto tax made easy. I'm reading right off it now. Calculating your crypto tax obligations can be a long and complex process. That is the understatement of the century, if anyone... And so let Coinly do all the hard work for you. And I was just looking at my report, and I'm not a huge crypto investor. I'm probably an average person in terms of crypto investments. And I was looking through the stuff that I'd done in the last tax period from 20 to 21, and I couldn't freaking believe the amount of transactions. There was several thousand of them back and forth and this and that. And if I wasn't using something like Coinly, I think it would have probably cost me who knows how much for my tax accountant to go in and try and work it out, or hundreds of hours of my time going back and forth. And I think this is, it's not only, in my opinion, the working out the right amount to pay for tax, but it's how much friggin' time that this can save you. And as you say, it works it out within 30 minutes of everything being plugged in, and bearing in mind that all the APIs are working correctly and all your different exchanges are connected. It's like 30 minutes, isn't it? That's how long it takes.
It's great. So one of the first things we do for any employees that start here with us as part of our one-day onboarding, we give them a free credit to go and be able to use our software to calculate their own tax.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you this, I thought that I'm a big crypto fan, as you know. I've got it like tattooed on the arms.
You've got the rockets. You've got one going each, one on down.
One up, one down, just to remind me, right, the way to go.
That's the reality of crypto.
Because it's the reality of crypto. And I plugged my wallets in on my first day, and the first thing I did was close the screen and go for a walk.
Yep.
Because I was like, I've been having such a great time. Spent some crypto money. We've been having a good time. And I plug it in. And it's like, this is how much capital gains tax you owe. And I was like, I need to go process this information.
Yes.
But it's better to know than to find out from the ATO.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that you're forthright and not trying to hide this stuff and you put it to them, the conversation can be had and then things can be worked out. But if you're trying to dodge it, they're gonna find you. This is just
it's unbelievable. So part of the thing that I was talking about the digital financial research center that's been set up in the city by actually part of the team were the guys that found they started a company that found the illegal stock market trades in the 80s. And they sold it to Thomas Reuters. Mike Aiken was one of the top guys on that, where they basically had a software that found market manipulation. These guys are now running a digital finance CMCRC.
Okay.
The number one thing to say is you plug in one wallet in this world, it's like a spider's web. Everything will be there. There's not really a place to hide.
No.
And therefore, understanding the rules, working through the rules, and being able to use a company like Coinley to show that you are interested in reporting accurately is what it's all about.
You said you were at an accounting expo or something this week. Is that right? What was the name of the expo?
So it was the Accounting for Business Expo last week. I'll tell you a funny.
Tell us the story.
So we wanted to join at last minute, and we called them and said, look, we'd really like to be there. They said they didn't really have much space. So we were like, well, we have a bunch of Coinly t-shirts. Maybe we're just going to come and say hello. And they were like, well, it would probably be better if we gave you a space. So they found us a 18 square meter space, and we ended up to be right across from like a competitor and like a bunch of other people, MYOB, Zero.
Yeah, right.
But what they hadn't realized is that we had paid a guerrilla marketing company to go and spray paint every single street from the train stations around Sydney to the expo with our logo. And we on top of that, we had DJs there, we had cupcakes there. Just having a quick look for you, I'm not sure if you guys could see this here, but we literally covered every street in Sydney.
Wow.
With Koinly crypto tax made easy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
People were walking past it on their way to work.
The subliminal marketing message there,
so because everyone's on their phones, right? So they're all looking down at their phone and they're like, what's this Koinly company?
That's brilliant.
And the CEO of the expo came up to me at the networking drinks and was like, are you the country manager for Koinly, the company that spray painted all the streets between all the train stations in the ICC? And I thought, I'm going to get a slap on the wrist here. And I was like, yeah, that may have been us. And he was like, I'm going to need the name of that guy that did that for you. And he's like, I'm like, what for? And he's like, because next year, that should be our logo. And it's turned out they've now hired the Guerrilla marketing company to go and do their logos and stuff for them.
That's so good. That is so good.
But the response was wild. I mean, we were speaking to booths next to us and they were saying, they're getting like 20, 30 people a day talking to them. We literally had people there talking to people in our queues, waiting for demos.
Wow.
We had on-the-spot signups where people were buying 3 to 1,000 licenses at the point. And this isn't like me just bragging about like the company we work for. Like what I'm saying is I've worked for companies where it's been hard to sell our product.
Yes. I know what you're saying.
And it seems like here that if someone's house is on fire, we're selling fire extinguishers. Because like I've not had so many people come up to us and be like, I love Coinly, I've used Coinly, like everyone should be using Coinly. How do I sign up? And it's so humbling to like work for this company. As I said, it started on my couch in Sydney. Like the office in Sydney started on my couch 12 weeks ago. The company's been going for years, but Robin, who's our CEO, just supported me and encouraged me to be able to do that. And I guess like one of the funniest ones that we had, and I don't want to shout out another podcast here, but one of the funniest ones we had was I was doing a demo with someone and we were talking through the product, and Adam Scott from Cryptoland came over, and he was like, if you're not buying this product, you're crazy. And he's like, I've had Robin on here, I've had this. He's like, I've got the affiliate code. He's like, it is the best one out there. Like, you guys should be looking at doing it. And what he didn't know is the people that we're pitching to have like 12 franchises of accountancy firms with over like 250,000 users. And he just happened to walk over to us to be like, Coinly. And there was another one where I was talking to someone and they were like, can we take a photo with you? And it's full stack advisory. And we were talking to them and they all start pointing to the Coinly logo on the t-shirt as like, and I was like, this is wild. Like, could you imagine like you work for a company and only you're happy, you wear the t-shirt, you go to an event. People were so excited to see us there that it was just a humbling experience.
It's a viral experience in its essence, and it's
I'll never forget it.
No, it's so cool. It's one of those products that people just there's competition, which we won't name, but there is competition. But I don't think it's as good in my opinion, hence the reason I'm using Coinly. But
I appreciate that. And look, competition's great because we all rise together.
We need competition. We need competition.
Actually, in business school, someone once told me that Marks and Spencer's in the UK, for any of you guys from the UK, were once asked what they thought about their competition. And they said their competition would look at them, but they don't look at their competition because they're the ones to beat. And the next year, dropped down in market price, became the 4th in the market. And I think if you don't have respect for knowing that there's other players in the game, how can you provide the best service, the best customer experience, and the best transparency around there? Like, you know, people get complacent in there. I welcome competition. When I was at Groupon, there was Living Social. I'm so thankful for Living Social because it kept us on our toes at Groupon.
Absolutely. Yeah. Competition is critical. So in terms of people saying crypto is just a fad, it's all going to die. I mean, I hear this all the time. I've done posts about this on LinkedIn saying, no, Web3, blockchain. I'm old enough. I turned 55 this year. So I was around during the whole internet boom, and I'm very grateful that I was around in that time in the mid-90s and the 2000s and the dot-com crash, because I am seeing the exact same language and patterns that people were saying back then. And often it was like newspaper companies saying, oh, that internet thing, it's just a fad. Who's going to want to read their stuff on a computer, blah, 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 all that same sort of stuff. And I'm hearing the same language patterns about blockchain, Web3, crypto, NFTs. What's your experience? Obviously, you're experiencing the customer growth and rush that you're getting at Coinly, but in general, how are you finding the whole Web3 space?
It's super interesting for me because back in like 2012, when I was working at ResT, we were all like just kind of side mining Bitcoins on our laptops, and and everyone thought this would be a bit wild. I told a few friends about it. They listened to me, and like now their houses are much bigger than mine because I sold mine a lot earlier. But what I want to share is, like, as I mentioned, I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago. I grew up in Mauritius. I grew up in St. Vincent. These are poor countries.
Yeah.
These are countries where governments change rapidly, where the value of currency fluctuates rapidly. And when I was working with an exchange recently, I spoke to the CEO about why he got into it. And he said that if you are in like Indonesia and you have, say, $100, and that $100 feeds your family for a year. No, sorry, for a month.
Yep.
And you wake up the next day and the government's done a mandatory recall on half of it. Yep. And you can't feed your family. You don't have a job to do. You can't change that. So most people started keeping cash and putting it in their mattress because they didn't trust banks. You only have to look at instability in South America and Africa, like all places around the world that this is happening. we have a luxury of living in such a beautiful country like Australia. It's kind of like Disneyland here. It's so beautiful. We have everything that we need. We probably see it as a fad. But when you live in a country that has a destabilized financial currency, governments that are always changing, dictators, this is a way out. So we may be the seed investors for the future of finance without knowing it. Like, decentralized finance can change the third world, the places I grew up where I saw people struggling every day. And for me, I'm not all about having a photo online that's worth like $5 and suddenly someone pays you $2 million for it. NFT is gonna have its realms, but the transactions behind that, being able to facilitate and track the transactions.
The
that's
utility.
Where the money, the utility is where the money is going to be.
100%.
Decentralized finance, where if you're not happy with who's running, if you live in an African country and you have a dictator running there, you're not happy with it, and people start putting their money into a decentralized currency and they can't mandatory recall that to use that to finance like civil wars, then you actually start crippling those people. We start giving power back to the people. And that was the whole idea of decentralized currency. And I don't want to get political on this, but the point that I'm making is that people may see it as a fad here, but that's because we have a luxury of where we live.
Exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It is something that a lot of governments around the world are scared of. And I believe there needs to be some degree of regulation in the finance areas to protect people, because, you know, there are a lot of scams in the crypto space. There's a lot of scams out on the street with cash. There's a lot of scams with bank stuff. There's, you know, up until crypto, were there no scams with money up until crypto? So
I embrace regulation. I embrace like governments putting that regulation in, because the moment that we can stop having people taking photos of a white piece of paper and selling it for $1 million and then selling it to themselves for $1 million and then telling everyone else to buy it for a few $1 million and then them realizing it's worth nothing. The moment we can stop that, we can actually start getting down to business. And I didn't get into technology to be able to do rug pulls, to have ways to take money from people. I did it to build technology that connects people together and make the world better. And as you can see, I'm getting a bit heated because nothing frustrates me more than watching people drive around in a Ferrari that I know was taken by a rug pull.
Oh yeah, and it happens all the time. And people don't realize that really all you have in life is your reputation at the end of the day. And that doing that sort of stuff is something that will damage you. And basically, for those who don't know what a rug pull is, it's where an NFT or a cryptocurrency is set up, and then the founders, once all the money has gone into it, do a very quick exit and leave everyone holding bags of air, and they do a runner with the money. No different to what people we've done in other businesses and other things in the past, but this is in the Web3 space. And it happens a lot. And again, it's something that people should be very cautious of when they're handing over their money to the Ferrari drivers. Nothing against people who drive Ferraris at all.
I love them.
Or Lambos. Lambos seem to be the poster child of the crypto.
Lambos are the poster. Although for me, it'd be a Morgan Aero 8 convertible.
Nice.
By Morgan in the UK.
Nice. I know the ones you're talking about, being a car guy. So look, I think we're getting close to our time being up, and we thank you for coming on, Adam. We're in the early days of all of this. There's more conversations to be had. For some people, this is the first tax return they're ever putting in to do with their crypto. A lot has to be learnt on the consumer end, on the accounting side, on the ATO side. There's still lots of learnings and working things out, and it's a very exciting ride. But just be open and honest with your taxes. Don't try and hide it. That's my thoughts anyway on that. But again, seek professional advice, speak to your tax accountant, do your own research. And yeah, if you want to use Coinley, you can go to Koinly.io. You can go to Koinly.com.au. Or if you want to give me some affiliate commission, you can go to cryptotaxes.com.au. You don't pay any more, and that's my plug for my affiliation with Coinly.
Well, Ed, let's have a catch up after this. I may even give you a cheeky discount code you can give out.
Oh, okay, yes, we can do that as well. So, any last thoughts, Adam, before we finish up and let you get back to your day?
Yeah, the only thing I really want to say is one of the benefits of us having an office here is that the jobs that I'm hiring for at the moment is a customer service team lead, account management. Like, we're going to make sure that if you pick up the phone in Australia and want advice on how to use our system, not tax advice, on how to use our system, you'll be able to speak to the right people based here in Australia. We're on George Street in Sydney. We're on LinkedIn. Like, we are not a company that is remote, hidden online. We're here to stay, and we have a customer service team ready to help you. So don't be afraid to give us a call.
Fantastic. We'll put all the relevant links in the show notes of this podcast on assets.com.au. Thanks very much. If this is the first time you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button if you liked it, of course, and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. We appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And thanks to Adam, who looks remarkably like my nephew, Kieran, which has slightly been freaking me out during this whole podcast. Your hair is longer than his, but he had hair like yours as well. So I feel like I've just interviewed my nephew for this whole session. That being said, take care. Have a great 4th of May. May the 4th be with you. And we'll see you soon on the next episode. Bye for now.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.